Welcome to Soccer Morning on NASN. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Jason Davis with you, Soccer Morning. Narwhals. Starting off with Narwhals. Today's music brought to you by Andrew Abernathy, who previously selected some music. We didn't really do Andrew right on his musical selection, so he's back around for another go, and we lead off with Narwhals today. He's got a reason. It's a reason for the music that he chose, and I respect it. And he helped out the show, which you can do at soccermorning.com. We have today, we have tomorrow to meet our goal for the month. I'll get an update on exactly where we are in just a minute, but if you're interested in helping out the show, keeping us on the air, soccermorning.com is where you can go. I know our friend Sean Reed over at Love Thy Soccer, the book that's coming out, the opus, the magnum opus on American soccer. I know he's supported the show this morning. So thank you to Sean for that. And he sent us a scarf as well, which you can't really see. It's right there. It says Epic Americanness on one side, which is really tough to beat in a scarf, if we're being honest about it. Soccer today. What do we got going on? Well, first of all, how's your soccer? I feel like I need to ask that every now and then. How is your soccer? Is it good? 81% we are. Again, I'm talking like... again, I'm talking like Yoda. We are at 81%. Of our goal for the month with, again, today and tomorrow. So yeah, keep that in mind as you consider the future of Soccer Morning as you listen to today's show. Andrew Mangan from Arseblog, the world-famous Arseblog, will join us in a couple of minutes. We'll go over Arsenal's season to this point. The chase for fourth, again. You know, I have this weird relationship with Arsenal. I'm not a fan by any stretch. I don't live or die with Arsenal. I would never begin to claim fanship of Arsenal. I have a soft spot for Arsenal. I don't know what that means exactly. I have a soft spot for a lot of teams. It never rises to fandom in most cases. I have a couple of teams I'm a fan of, but in this case, when it comes to England, I have a soft spot for teams, but not fandom. And Arsenal is one of those weird situations where the recent past, I mean, yeah, the Invincibles are still there. That's part of the history. There's so much to talk about when it comes to Arsenal and their history. But the recent past, it's been a frustrating go. And Arsene Wenger, is he sticking around? I don't know why we would think he's going anywhere. But every year it's this sort of ultimately disappointing run. And not because they're not successful on some level. You qualify for Champions League football. You've done something right. Clearly, Everton would love to. And Arsenal's not done, and Everton still has a chance, but Everton's got to beat Manchester City on Saturday. This is the conundrum for Everton fans, which I find fascinating, too. If they beat Manchester City, they probably help Liverpool onto the title, which is interesting for Everton fans. And then you have to win against Manchester City to have any shot at fourth, even though Arsenal is probably going to lock it up. So what do you do? How do you handle that game? I find it weird to ever consider wanting your team to lose. This is why I can't get the NBA thing and tanking to get a number one, to get more ping pong balls in the lottery. I could never deal with that. I could never just willingly accept that my team needs to lose a game. Everton fans in that conundrum. But Arsenal, again, they're going to get fourth. I have no reason to doubt that. They had a chance to do something bigger this year. They were hit by some injuries. Mesut Ozil had this roller coaster of a season. They beat Newcastle yesterday 3-0. Some good feelings back, but not too little too late because, again, fourth place. That's great. That's fantastic. There are 16 other teams that would trade places with them in a second. And yet it's Arsenal, and you expect them to be contending for a title. And they haven't managed to figure out how to get back to that level. Liverpool went from also ran, not even a European participant in the Europa League or otherwise, to contending for a title, and here they are on the doorstep, knocking on the door of a Premier League title. Their first ever. Their first title of any kind in 24 years. And Arsenal, with all of the advantages that they have, haven't gotten over it. Haven't figured out how to get back to that level. Always come up just that little bit short. So when you're an Arsenal fan, how do you process this? Because you can't really hate on the fact that they made fourth. You can't really be upset about that, can you? Can you be upset about this, Arsenal fans? Should you? What's your standard at this point? And yesterday, I believe, if I have this correct, and I'll ask Andrew in a second, but I believe yesterday was St. Totteringham's Day. I'm not sure I'm even saying Totteringham correct. But this is the day that Arsenal fans celebrate, which is the day that they are mathematically assured of finishing ahead of Spurs. And I get that the rivalry is intense. I get that the North London derby is intense. But it just seems like a hollow victory. I mean, I get it. You always want to beat your rival. And I certainly have teams that if we have a terrible year, once I realize we're having a bad year or we're not going to achieve anything, as long as we beat our rivals, I might be happy. So I suppose for Arsenal fans, this is that. We finished higher than Spurs for the 19th consecutive year, whatever it is, 20th, whatever. I don't know. Where are they? Where is, how many years has it been? Maybe it's become old hat at this point, but they still celebrate it. And I see you Arsenal fans on Twitter. I see you. It looks, I don't know, man. Is it a good look to be celebrating that day when you finished fourth, when you had a shot maybe at the title 3 or 4 months ago? I don't know. It's weird. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Andrew Abernathy. Thanks a lot, Andrew. When we come back, Andrew Mangan from Arseblog will join us. We'll go through Arsenal's season, talk about that fourth place finish. Good enough? Not good enough? Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, soccermorning.com. Be right back.
Here we go. One, two, three. All the single ladies, 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 all the single ladies.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
You give to the show, as Andrew Abernathy did, and you get to pick our music. And song number 3, Andrew's list. It only gets better from there. Joining me now on Skype, Andrew Mangan from Arseblog, who we bring on to talk about Arsenal. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm fine. I thought that song was for me, actually, but, you know.
Well, okay. Explain how that might be the case. Because
No. We best not.
All right, Andrew. I sort of set this up as we were getting connected there, and I talked about this in my opening segment. How do you feel as an Arsenal fan? It seems like it's an eternity. It's not. It's a couple of years now where Arsenal has sort of slotted into this place where fourth is about the best they're going to do. And the season started so well, and there's always hope, and it's Arsenal. You expect them to contend. How do you feel now that, and it's not locked up yet, and I suppose knock on wood that Arsenal gets fourth place, but it looks like that's happening. How are you supposed to feel today?
I think there's a sense of frustration, to be honest, about this season because, even today you look at the table, and I'm in the middle of writing a piece for ESPN about this. You look at the table and Arsenal are 7 points behind Liverpool. Mm-hmm. That's all. Mm-hmm. And things have gone pretty badly at times, and there have been ridiculous results, ridiculous performances and defeats. And, it's kind of clouded how well other things went, really. But you could pick out a handful of moments where if things had gone a little bit differently for Arsenal, I'm not even talking about those big defeats, where if things had just gone a little bit differently for Arsenal, they could be, I don't know, a point behind or level on points, or even just 3 points behind with a couple of games to go, and still there sort of fighting for the title. So, there's a whole raft of reasons that we could go into between injuries and squad depth and everything else. But the bottom line is that, they promised a lot. It fell away. Now they seem to be back on track a little bit. I don't know quite how to feel, to be perfectly honest. It's very difficult to sum it up, because we could have won it.
Right.
We probably shouldn't have won it, or won't win it, obviously. But at the same time, if we just had maybe a little bit more of a rub of the green in terms of some moments and some injuries, who knows? It's
sort of this retroactive adjustment. You're sitting here, and again in fourth place, but only 7 points back of the top team, and you sort of say, oh well, maybe we weren't good enough to win it. But again, as you said, all it would have taken is one or two different results months ago. I mean, months ago, and this could be a very different story. And maybe you wouldn't feel that way today, that they're maybe just not good enough to win it. Maybe you would feel that they are good enough because the table would reflect that. It's such an and again, because it's Arsenal, and because the bar is high, and because this has happened before. Now, maybe not in quite this way, and maybe that's what I'll ask you. How is this season different than last season or the season before that?
Because the previous seasons, it was done by October or November, or even earlier than that. Mm-hmm. Arsenal's difficulties really began in February and March. And that's really what's different for me anyway, is that they promised a lot throughout the season. And then when Walcott got injured, Ramsey got injured, Ozil got injured, Wilshere got injured, Koscielny was injured for a little while as well. I think that had an impact. And I think, whatever you might say about the way they got found out in some of the big games, and there's no defending that, some of the other games that they, you look at Swansea, you look at Stoke away, where they've dropped silly points in games that they should have been taking maximum points from, to be perfectly honest. And they had when it went wrong, they had a real crisis of confidence. It doesn't take much to knock you off your momentum, and it takes a little while to get things back on track as well. So for me, where the difference is that they were there or thereabouts and competing, and then fell away. It wasn't a case that they blew it at the start and were frantically trying to get back up the table into that sort of fourth place or top four position.
I'm looking at results from the entire year. I'm going all the way back. It escaped I forgot that they opened the season with that loss to Villa at home. I mean, you go all the way back to that game, and you go, well, if they had done what they were supposed to do at the Emirates against a team that ultimately is almost pulled down into the relegation fight at this point, then and not that it was bad. It was that bad from the beginning, but that is one game you could point to. There's 3 points you should have had, and at least one, and who knows. So I guess that that probably would drive you insane if you did that. Have you done that though? Have you gone back and you looked at those games and you said, "What? How did we not?"
Of course, but I mean, like you say, you would drive yourself mad. And I think you have to accept in any football season that there is, there are going to be bad results and bad performances, and moments which go for you and moments which go against you. The narrative about Arsenal blowing it is, fair enough, I guess, but people aren't really talking about Chelsea losing at home to Sunderland, losing to Crystal Palace, and they lost another game as well, in the last few weeks, where, if they had won those games that you would fully expect Chelsea to win, they'd be well clear at the top of the table now, and probably on their way to the league title. So it's not something that's just unique to Arsenal. I think if we follow a club, or if you follow a club, you tend to get so insulated as to your outlook. You kind of think that all these bad things only happen to you, and they don't. They happen to all clubs.
Now, again, I think that in isolation, this season is understandable, and you might even be able to sort of get over the disappointment in light of all of the injuries that you mentioned. There was a litany of them. But because it's a wider theme that Arsenal seems to be following, I imagine that makes it more difficult. But I suppose that the right way to go about it is to think about what's next. What's the future? I already see, and this is not atypical, but I've already seen transfer rumors popping up with Arsenal connected. Where is the mindset right now, and where do you think the club should be looking as they, again, finish this out and secure fourth place?
Well, they can't really look beyond the FA Cup at this point. They've got I think they're in a very good position to finish in the top four. They just need a win from either of their last two games, assuming that Everton can beat Manchester City. If Manchester City beat Everton on Saturday, then that's it. Arsenal finish top four.
Right.
The FA Cup is hugely important because I think that has an impact on the future of the manager, to be perfectly honest.
Sure.
I think if he doesn't win the FA Cup, then I think his position becomes untenable. But I think if they are planning, and they should be planning to a certain extent, they need to be looking at making sure that they do their transfer business as early as possible in the summer. Previously, Arsenal have been, they've waited things out, because they've been in a position where they needed to get the very best value for money. So they were content or keen to play the waiting game, bit of brinksmanship here. They would wait until late in the day and try and get the best deal possible. I think what they have to do this summer is go out straight away, identify the areas they need to buy players in, and then bring those players in as quickly as possible. There's a World Cup coming, which is going to affect players who are already at the club who won't be back perhaps for the entire preseason, so they'll have some time off. Players who, if they want to buy players who are at the World Cup, they're going to go to the World Cup, go off on their holidays. It all becomes a bit more difficult. So I think really they want to be working on things as quickly as possible and trying to put deals in place now, really, to be honest. But I would worry that that's not quite how Arsenal do things.
It'll be interesting to see the FA Cup final, May 17th. Is that the day of the final? Is the FA Cup more important to Arsenal than it is to most clubs? I mean, except for, save for the smaller clubs for whom any trophy is a big deal. Obviously, Arsenal has that stigma of being a big club that doesn't have any trophies. And I'm not sure how long it is, Andrew, and I don't want to cause more pain today, but I'm just, is it more important?
Look, the FA Cup is a prestigious trophy and every club wants to win it. It's just as important for Hull as it is for Arsenal. Okay. I think it's Hull's first ever appearance in the final. So, for them, it would be huge. But for Arsenal, it would be huge as well. And it's one of the major trophies of the season. It would put an end to that X amount of time since Arsenal won a trophy trope. And, I think people have said for quite a while that they just need to get this first trophy win under their belts to give them the confidence that they can go on and do it and go the distance in various competitions. And I think that's very true.
I think it's something that fans can certainly tell themselves. Whether or not it's true, it may be a little bit more difficult to determine, but there's every reason in the world to think that Arsenal can continue to contend for trophies. And if they handle their transfer business in the summer well enough, then they'll be contenders again next year. Let's move to what Eric Walcott on Twitter has reminded me of. He says, yesterday was St. Totteringham's Day. Let's enjoy that and forget about the moment we're stuck. Forget for a moment we're stuck in fourth. Andrew, for anybody who is not an initiate in the Arsenal way, what is St. Totteringham's Day and what does it celebrate for Arsenal fans?
It's something that's just that's really emerged over the last few years. Right. It's been an internet creation, I think. But basically, it's the day that Arsenal finish with enough points that Tottenham can't overtake them. So it's known as St. Totteringham's Day. Okay. It's come quite late in the season, the last few seasons, where Arsenal have pretty much done it on the final day. But previous to that, it was par for the course. Where
which is probably why it wasn't as big of a deal before, because Tottenham hadn't really closed the gap until the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's 19 years on the trot now. It's 19 years since Tottenham finished above Arsenal in the table. So it's something that it's just one of those little jokes that goes around. But I think you just kind of have to enjoy it as a bit of fun that it is. between two teams. These rivalries are important, and they add flavor and texture to the way that we look at football, and that's kind of all it is. It's a bit of fun. Yes. Nobody's taking it too seriously. Really.
I will put it in its proper context. I did maybe say that in light of what Arsenal season has become, it's a sort of a weak, hollow victory for Arsenal fans.
Nobody's making T-shirts or releasing DVDs or anything like that. It really is just a chance to slag off Tottenham fans.
Okay, maybe not DVDs, but I'm sure someone somewhere has made a T-shirt because it's the internet, Andrew. And I'm not the rational Arsenal fans, but certainly someone out there is trying to guess. Yeah. Somebody is, but.
They probably have a body in their basement as well. So
I'm all for getting one over on your rival, and I'm not an Arsenal fan and I'm not a Spurs fan, but I'm all for that. So I can certainly see the fun in it. Again, I mean, we talk about the future, and Arsenal does not exist in a vacuum, but they are one of those clubs that you feel like if they did just get their business right, if they did have the correct mentality, if they maybe were a cohesive unit. In an earlier sense than maybe they managed to this year, although again the extension of their ability to contend was much longer in 2013-14 than it's been, that you feel like they would be where Liverpool is right now. And when you see what Liverpool has managed to do, Andrew, does that have any? Do you reflect on Arsenal's place in the Premier League hierarchy, considering that Liverpool turned it around so quickly and now has a chance to go win a Premier League title?
No, not really. I mean, I look at what Liverpool have done, and they've been impressive. There's no doubt about it. They played some fantastic football, particularly in the last 3 or 4 months, but they haven't had to contend with Champions League football. They haven't had to contend with the extra fatigue, the travel, the injuries that brings about, and I think that's been a big advantage. So we'll have to wait and see next season how Liverpool cope with the demands and the rigors of playing at the weekend, then in midweek, then playing a difficult away game after going away in Europe. All these things have an impact on how your season goes. In terms of what Arsenal should do, there's no question in my mind now that given the new sponsorship deal that they signed with Emirates, which comes into play this summer, the new kit deal that they signed with Puma, which comes into play this summer, we're talking about that adding around £60 million per season on top of the money that they already have to spend. There is no need for Arsenal to play the long game in the transfer market. It might be a case that you can save yourself a few million quid here and there. And I know when we say that, it sounds ludicrous, to save a few million quid, because it's a huge amount of money, obviously. But for the sake of your squad and the cohesiveness of it going into a new season, it might be worth it just to spend that little bit extra to get everybody together, to get them a preseason. Mesut Ozil, for example, didn't have a preseason with Arsenal. He joined on August 31st. He's been criticized by some, but, to my mind, has had a pretty good first season at Arsenal. But next season, when he's settled in more, when he's had a reasonable preseason, bearing in mind there's a World Cup, he'll be better. So any players that you bring in, you want to bring them in with enough time to, to integrate properly into the Arsenal team, the way that Arsenal do things, a new country, a new way of life, a new language, assuming that you're going to buy players from abroad as well as from the Premier League. So to me, that's where Arsenal need to be really strong this summer, and they've no excuse not to be, because they have the resources to do it that way.
The World Cup does, again, it does complicate things. I mean, you mentioned Ozil not coming in until August 31st, but he's going to be part of a German team that is expected to make a long run, and then he's going to need time off after the World. Complications upon complications for everybody, not just Arsenal, but that's going to affect everybody this summer as the transfer market opens up. At this point, Andrew, I'd like to sort of move us to a bigger picture about the Premier League season. I mean, Arsenal still has a little tiny bit of work to do to get the lock of fourth place. They have the FA Cup final, but when you look at this Premier League season on the whole, and remember, we started off the year with this idea of multiple contenders, more than we've had in recent pasts, as many as 5 or 6 teams possibly going for the title. In the end, it's down to 3 really, and 2 if we're going to be real fair about this. Those 2 were expected to be. I don't know. How do you look at the way the Premier League has turned, and are we going to go back to a time when there's only really 1 or 2 or 3 contenders? And how do you put Manchester United back into this? All of those complications.
Well, I think we've got Manchester City, Chelsea, and Liverpool there at the moment. There have been so many twists and turns this season that you wouldn't put it past this season to provide another one. Arsenal were thereabouts. Manchester United, I think when they get Louis van Gaal in the summer and spend a lot of money, which is I'm sure what they're going to do, you'd have to think that they're going to be a team that will be better next season, just simply because of their stature, and it would be unusual if they weren't better next season. Arsenal, you would hope, are going to be better next season. So I don't think we're heading back towards a time where there's just 1 or 2 teams that can win it. I think when you get to this point of the season, though, there's usually, because there's so few games left, there's usually only 2 or 3 teams in there. So I think it's become a lot more competitive. I think as a league, it's become more competitive. I think I touched on Chelsea losing games that you wouldn't expect them to lose. And that's not down necessarily just to Chelsea bottling it or cracking under the pressure, even though that's what I like to think. I think, you have to put some of that down to the quality of the opposition and the way that the league can be competitive from almost the very bottom up. So, it's been a pretty good season overall, I think, because there's been something new and there's been a bit of variety, and it's not just the teams that are propped up by the oil money or the money from the Middle East. It's not just those teams that are doing well this season. I think that's positive.
I agree with you, and there are sort of 2 blanket statement ways to look at it. It's either there's a little bit of increased parity in the Premier League, which is something I think a lot of people would be okay with, or you could say, hey, this has been a mediocre. Most of these teams are pretty mediocre, but there is certainly quality in Liverpool, and they've been exciting to watch. And we've had enough competitive games across the top 10 or so to make it a very interesting season, and maybe one we won't see the likes of for some time, or perhaps this becomes the new norm. Andrew Mangan from Arseblog joins us to talk Arsenal on a regular basis, and we appreciate his time every single time. Thank you for joining us, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Cheers. No problem.
All right, there you go. There's Andrew. Let's take a break. We'll reset. We'll open to the phone lines. We'll talk Copa America in the United States in 2016. That seems to be happening. Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, soccermorning.com. Be right back.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
Back on Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, soccermorning.com. Yeah. I won't even comment anymore. Thank you to Andrew for your support of the show and your choices of music today. Thank you to Andrew Mangan for joining us to talk a little Arsenal and the Premier League season as it comes to a rapid close. The announcement of a 2016 Copa America happening in the United States is expected on Thursday. First reported that date, the date of announcement on May 1st. First reported by BN Sport. I believe Phil Shane had that story at the BN Sport website. But this tournament obviously has been rumored for a couple of years now. In fact, I had reason to go back and listen to an interview that the Best Soccer Show, myself and Jared Dubois did with CONCACAF president Jeffrey Webb in July of 2013, and he had said at that point he expected an announcement in a couple of weeks. So that's nearly a year ago, and we were still waiting on the official announcements. Neil Galati has sort of poured cold water on the idea, at least in terms of getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just wait a second. U.S. Soccer has to sign off. Well, apparently that's all happened. Everybody's excited. Thursday is the announcement in Miami. CONCACAF, CONMEBOL coming together to announce a Copa America in the United States in 2016. Centenario, I'm going to say, am I getting that pronunciation correct? The 100th anniversary of the Copa America, which first took place in 1916. Obviously, this is a marketing situation. The United States is a massive opportunity for CONMEBOL to make some cash and put the game and put the tournament in front of more people. And because the Copa America is never on a fixed schedule, it's not like the Euro, which happens every 4 years. It's not like the World Cup, which happens every 4 years. It's not even like the Gold Cup, which happens every 2 years. And I'm going to continue to advocate we change that to every 4 years, but hey, whatever. Copa America can be moved. They can decide at any time, hey, we're going to have a Copa America this summer. Oh, hey, guess what? Hey, you guys want to do Copa America? Anybody in? You? Yes? No? Show of hands. Who wants to do Copa America? Okay, we're doing a Copa America. That's how they handle it. It's great. This is sort of ad hoc, let's throw a tournament together thing. But that's what gives them the ability to put one in the United States in 2016 because they can just throw it together whenever they want. Now, this means that all reports are that the United States and Mexico will be automatic qualifiers. Obviously, the United States as host, you would expect that. Mexico, because they are the other big team in the region. I'm not sure if Costa Rica is automatically a qualifier or not, and there are details to be determined. And I will try to keep track of those. But because of this Copa America coming to the United States in 2016, look at the schedule for the United States and Mexico over the course of the next, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. The next 6 years, including this one. World Cup Brazil, Gold Cup next summer, Copa America / Olympics. Remember, the Olympics are in Brazil, in Rio in 2016. If the United States qualify, if Mexico qualify. Mexico, the defending Olympic champion. So for those two countries, and certainly for Mexico, you would expect that to be on the docket as well. Copa America / Olympics in 2016. Gold Cup in 2017. World Cup in 2018. Gold Cup in 2019. There won't be a summer without a tournament until 2020. That's a long time from now. I will be old by then. You'll be, well, most of you will be old. Some of you will still be young. Some of you will be, sickeningly young, actually. Some of you won't even be 30 yet. How's that possible? It's fascinating to me that we're going to have, and you look at this, again, okay, the World Cup, that's a big deal. The Gold Cup next summer, that's the important it used to be the important Gold Cup. Now we have this idea of the Gold Cup winners playing off against each other. The United States is the defending champion from 2013, a tournament that did not see full-strength squads. Are we going to see full-strength squads next year, or will the two countries decide, in light of the fact that we're going to get a Copa America the year after? And here, that Gold Cup may play a role in qualifying CONCACAF teams for that Copa America. I think I've got that right. So if that's the case, will the United States and Mexico put out their best teams? So you have the World Cup, the Gold Cup, the Copa America. You got to take your best team to Copa America that's happening in your region. The Gold Cup again. Maybe that's when you finally say, okay, now, let's take a breath. Now we can work in some fringe guys, some younger guys, some new talent, and this is our B team for this tournament. Because when else are you going to do this now? It used to be that the Gold Cup, and you saw it last summer, is an opportunity for the United States and Mexico to get their new talent in, find some new people to work into their talent pool, experiment a little bit, give a chance to players who are either need to grow into a senior national team role, or are late bloomers, or in the case of Landon Donovan, need to work their way back in. That's what he did last year. Landon Donovan went to the Gold Cup, dominated, and worked his way back into the national team. Now, was he the starter? I don't know. It's a different subject for a different day. But that used to be the deal. Now, is that going to be possible until 2017 at the earliest? When is that Gold Cup winner playoff to go to the Confederations Cup? When is that happening? And by the way, I didn't even throw the Confederations Cup in here, which is a 2017 thing. So you may have a Gold Cup with B squads, but at least one of those countries, Mexico, the United States, you assume, the United States already has a spot in the playoff. Mexico will, they will hope to get one in 2015. One of those teams is going to the Confederations Cup in Russia the summer of 2017. That's happening. Who's going to have to throw that tournament into the mix? You see, am I wrong? Somebody explain to me. Is this something that we shouldn't be worried about? or am I overstating how crazy it's going to be? As a soccer fan, I love it. It's great. How can I complain? We'll go ahead and open up the phone lines, by the way. 347-756-6276 is the phone number. If you have any thoughts on Copa America in 2016 in the United States, the centennial edition of that tournament coming here, what will it mean for the sport? And by the way, news out yesterday that Traffic Sports has secured the marketing rights to all CONCACAF properties until 2022 or 2020, one of those numbers. They actually secured them last year ahead of the 2013 Gold Cup, knocking some out of that role. But now they've re-upped, or whatever, however you want to look at it, doubled down. What does that mean? What does that mean for SUM, for some? I'm not sure what that means, if anything. Does that mean anything? Traffic Sports does not have the best reputation. Traffic, obviously, incredibly involved in what's happening in the NASL. In fact, they think they still own at least 2 teams. Am I wrong about that? They're operating one in Fort Lauderdale. If they're operating more than that, let me know. NASL heads out there, let me know. So is this a good thing, bad thing? Are you indifferent? Does it matter? Who cares? What's the situation here? 347-756-6276. Give me a call. Let me know what you think about this. Copa America in the United States. I mean, it's hard not to get excited about it. My boy Jared Dubois from the Best Soccer Show called it Copa Fantastico. It was a great name. It's not going to be called that, but that's a great name. We should make T-shirts. Can we make T-shirts that say Copa Fantastico on them? Can we do that? Are we going to get in trouble for trademark violations? As long as we don't have any imagery of the Copa America, right? So you got Brazil and Argentina and Uruguay and all these teams coming to the United States in 2016. What kind of squads do they bring? They bring their best teams? Because I think that would obviously have an impact on how big the tournament is and what kind of effect it'll have on American soccer, blah, blah, blah. But talking about that gives me the opportunity to address some of the things that are out there today. I briefly mentioned, I think it was last week, that Reuters story about the poll that was done that said 2/3 of Americans don't plan on paying attention to the World Cup. That was the story. That was the negative spin on a poll done by Ipsos and Reuters. It said 66% of Americans don't plan to follow the World Cup. 7% expect to follow it closely. Now that's, again, the negative spin is 2/3 of Americans don't care. 2/3 of Americans hate soccer. I wouldn't really say it that way, but so many words. And the positive spin is, okay, 1/3 of Americans, or 100 million people, are actually interested on some level. That's positive. And I used that poll and that story as an opportunity to suggest that soccer fans should just relax and stop worrying about being part of team soccer. Stop worrying about being, soccer boosters and having to care about whether or not soccer is popular in your country. Soccer's popular here. It's fine. It's not going anywhere. They're going to bring the Copa America to the United States in 2016. Just chill. If you need any reason to believe that soccer is doing fine, that's a good reason. Believe it. Soccer is fine. The only factor that matters in the growth of soccer, the only one we should really care about is time. And you can't speed that up. Unless you have secret technology, in which case contact me. You can't speed up time. So we just have to wait, okay? To wait. So the sport does the work for you. Yeah, every now and then you can convince somebody to go out to a game with you, and on a personal level, one-on-one, that's fine. But when these things blow up and team soccer goes into a tizzy and everybody gets upset, and it's not just this. There's other stuff out there as well. Other stories, anytime a columnist dusts off his 1975 piece about how soccer will never make it in America and files it on the internet, people go nuts. Let's relax. Let's chill. Just let the soccer do the work. Just be fans. You can just be a fan of the sport and not have to be a fan of the sport, if you know what I mean. Again, you can watch the game, pick a team, England, MLS, South America, Mexico, wherever. Watch that team, enjoy that team, watch the World Cup, do all of those things, and not have to be emotionally invested in whether poll numbers say that soccer is growing. Soccer is growing. It's fine. It's happening. Don't sweat it. But the interesting thing about Rick and Philly's on the line, I'm going to get to you in a second, Rick. The interesting thing about this poll is it was taken apart by 538.com because they didn't talk to anybody whose first language is Spanish. They didn't conduct this poll at all in Spanish. And we know that the demographics of the United States dictate that if you're going to get an accurate picture of anything, you need to talk to some people in Spanish. Do it in Espanol, because there's a large population in this country who speaks Spanish in the home. So if we're talking about soccer, is it an accurate picture of how many Americans really care if you're only asking those who speak English? Again, that's the dominant language in the country, but it's not the only language. Rick, what's up, man?
Hey, Jason. How you doing? I am absolutely shocked.
Sorry, Rick. I left you hanging there. Sorry about that, Rick. What's up, man?
No problem. I am absolutely shocked that after a former a former traffic vice president became Secretary General of CONCACAF, all of these rights keep going to traffic. I mean, that's shocking to me. I can't understand it.
Yeah, we sort of look. I respect Jeffrey Webb, and I think he has tried to do some good work there at CONCACAF, but these things are never going to change. It doesn't matter if you're the most virtuous person in the world leading the organization. There's still going to be horse trading and back scratching, and I don't want to say kickbacks because that sounds illegal, but who knows? It's always going to happen. It just always is.
No, I mean, when you're dealing with CONCACAF and soccer in the U.S. is essentially going to be defined by the tension between traffic and some. It always has been and always will be. And some tends to be the lesser of two evils as you look at it. They tend to be a little less actively malevolent. And if you don't believe that, ask Galia Basamunde.
Yeah.
But the idea that traffic is getting all the marketing rights and everything else, it's not simply that, they're going to be able to pitch the tournaments and sell the tickets and do the commercials and everything else. It's that they're going to be able to fundamentally define how U.S. soccer operates within the Confederation. And that's dangerous for some, and ultimately it's dangerous for the survival of Major League Soccer and for the development of soccer in the U.S.
Okay. You're going to have to be a little bit more specific. I think that's a scary general idea, but give me an idea of what that would mean in terms of practical application and how that would impact MLS directly.
Okay. In the most general sense, it's often been discussed when you're talking about MLS's TV deals and their distribution rights, that the most valuable property the most valuable property pertaining to television that MLS has, it's that its rights are sold in conjunction with U.S. soccer.
Right.
So MLS gets a better deal than they would if they were selling those things individually.
Yes.
So if traffic is controlling the distribution for all of the other games in CONCACAF except for the United States and Mexico, they are setting a market price for every other game that's out there. When they sell to, say, beIN Sport at thus and such a rate for all of the U.S. away qualifiers, they're setting a market rate that ESPN can choose to match or choose not to match for U.S. qualifiers, and then that affects the market price for MLS rights.
Okay, yeah, sure. Those things are connected, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a little abstract, but I see what you're saying.
My point with that being that if traffic, as some people have conjectured, is actively trying to take down MLS or in some way devalue MLS to the benefit of NASL, they could use that as a point of leverage to damage MLS's ability to negotiate with the television network.
Okay, all right.
And to market themselves.
Sure, and you know that's very possible. I'm not going to make that assumption at this point, but it's very possible, and there's certainly no reason to think that traffic has any other interest than dominating the market, because that's what businesses tend to do. But at the same time, that it does not preclude MLS from taking steps to inure themselves to that eventuality.
Oh no, they absolutely are. For example, moving potentially the potential conflict between having a NASL team and an MLS team in Atlanta. At some level, there had to have been a conscious decision made that we are going to take on NASL here in the same way that NASL wanted to take on MLS in New York with the Cosmos. And traffic is a prime mover in those discussions and in those decisions from the NASL side.
Yeah. You know, what's scary about this, Rick, is that American soccer history is littered with competing organizations just cannibalizing each other to the point that neither one of them can survive. This has happened so many times that it is a joke. And this is part of why it took MLS and the conscious choice to be single. This is why single entity happened, because there's so much fear over the potential of another disaster in American soccer. And now you have, and I'm not going to pick sides. I'm not going to say one is right and one is wrong. But when you have traffic and some, MLS and NASL, when you have any notion of American soccer organizations going head to head for a market that, let's be fair, is more mature than it's ever been before, but is still probably not strong enough to support everything that everybody wants to do. I'm scared. Do I have a reason? I'm scared.
It's a very relevant concern. And also, when you look at the international tournaments, bidding for a World Cup, bidding for a Women's World Cup, bidding for a U23 Cup, and that sort of thing, you now have a situation where the Secretary General of CONCACAF is beholden to traffic. The executive committee member, Sunil Gulati, is a former mouthpiece for some. And you've got Jeffrey Webb in the middle, who effectively only represents the Caribbean Football Union. Yeah. It's hard to negotiate. It's hard to play the sort of power politics that Jack Warner used to play and give CONCACAF a major role in making the decisions of the day if you have that sort of division.
Yeah. The Secretary General that you're referencing, by the way, just to put the information out there, is Enrique Sanz, who is Colombian American, but Colombian by birth. And he, as you said, he's a formerly of Traffic Sports, and again, I think that, you know, not knowing how the corporation, the business is structured, and knowing that Traffic is originally a Brazilian outfit, is that correct?
Brazilian, yeah. They started out with the television rights to Santos, and they turned it into all this. Right,
and now they've got obviously a base of operations in Miami and are heavily invested in the growing market that is CONCACAF. They also have that history, and you referenced Gale Abasamande, who came to my mind yesterday upon seeing this news that Traffic has secured the rights for CONCACAF going forward. He was signed to Traffic as a player. They saw fit to send him to Portugal. They have a couple of teams they own there, second and third division teams, if I'm not mistaken. And his career, and, you know, look, it was kind of a back and forth. Traffic certainly took more of a PR hit because we're going to identify with the young talent more than we are the giant corporation or the big corporation. I don't know how big they are. The word giant is
they're more influential than rich.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously they took the PR hit, and Agbasamande seems like the victim, and maybe he is. He's 22 years old. He's a Toronto FC player now. He's yet to see the field in 2014, and I don't know what his future is. And he was thought to be a big potential talent that could have eventually stepped into the center of defense for the United States. So these are all factors in how we are parsing this information. And Traffic.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Yeah, and before I hop off, one thing that you mentioned, the fact that Traffic has a headquarters in Miami, the fact that CONCACAF, when Enrique Sanz took over as Secretary General, moved CONCACAF's headquarters from New York to Miami, and the fact that the U.S. headquarters of BN Sport was relocated to Miami. And these, they are all located actually within a 5-mile radius of each other in downtown Miami.
Yes.
Now look at where the money's coming from. The Middle Eastern money that is running the Cosmos is very closely tied to the Middle Eastern money that's running BN Sport.
Okay.
Enrique Sanz, with Traffic, have major investments in bringing matches to Dubai and bringing oil money and oil-sponsored teams over to the U.S. for exhibition matches.
Yeah.
All of it's tied together, and it's all in this one little area of Miami right now.
Yeah, there is. Look, there is the scene is extremely. What's the word I'm looking for? It's there are a lot of relationships and pre-existing relationships, and this sort of. I don't want to call it a good old boy network because I'm not really sure that that's the right way to characterize it, but it certainly has that element of everybody is helping everybody else out, and there are, again, relationships that matter, and a lot of business is relationships. I mean, a lot of it's networking, but there's sort of this closed club that if you're not involved in, it's difficult to break into. And I'm not speaking from, well, I might be speaking from experience on some level. I might not be. You never know. There's you mentioned BN Sports in Miami, and I love Phil Shane and I like Ray Hudson and those guys, and I think they're trying very hard to putting on a good product. But there is a relationship, obviously, and then there's Traffic and the NASL who just moved to New York, and then RSE Ventures is also down there, which is sports and entertainment company that is behind the summer tournaments now and is based in Miami. So look, again, I don't want to claim conspiracy. I mean, that's not what we're talking about here, Rick. What we're talking about is whether or not the landscape has changed to the detriment.
Oh no, absolutely. I don't think that there's, I don't think there's some Bilderberger group. I don't think that, Enrique Sanz and Jeff Webb and the head of BN Sport all get together on the weekend and, hold meetings. How are we going to take down some in Major League Soccer? It's a confluence of interests, but the fact that those interests are, there's such a lack of transparency, and that's world soccer in general. There's such a lack of moral accountability in some of the cases. It's compelling to watch, if nothing else.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's fast, and again, I think it's scary. Now, I just got done, Rick, before you called, talking about how American soccer fans need to relax, need to let go of the team soccer notion, be a fan of the sport like you're a fan of basketball or baseball or football. Because as far as I know, NFL fans, NBA fans, Major League Baseball fans aren't running around telling everybody how great their sport is and they need to watch it. And hey, what's wrong with you? This is I really care about how many people are polled to like my baseball league or my basketball league. So soccer fans should figure out a way to be more relaxed about their sport and the future of the sport because it's not going anywhere. But then we get to this, and you wonder, it's not that the sport's going to go anywhere, but the constructs, the leagues themselves, the ability to operate on a level that is commensurate with our expectations, all of those things are still up in the air.
No, that's absolutely true. And I wish I could calm down and just be a fan of the sport. And, that's, I think, one of the great liberating things about going to a match. And you can just forget about all of that. You can just watch the guys run around. You can just watch the ball move and, let everything go. And that's tremendously liberating. Mm-hmm. The soccer, especially in the United States, came along and really exploded right at the same time as social media and right at the same time as the data movement in sports. And so I think we have this natural inclination to gather as much data as possible.
Yes.
Try and understand it in ways that people weren't trying to understand baseball and football and basketball at the time that they all came together. Mm-hmm. And we were all living so much in the moment as opposed to being able to take the broad view right now.
Yeah.
I think that's really where it comes from.
It's true. And look, we want to measure. I mean, it's a natural inclination of sports fans to measure everything anyway. How many goals did that striker scored? He's good or bad based on how many goals he scored? The same
for the Union, he hasn't scored any.
The same notion is true for American soccer's growth. And again, if you're on team soccer, this idea of being able to measure how much the game is growing and how many people care and the idea that soccer is going to become popular. And all I ask of people, and I'm sure you've examined this in yourself, Rick, but all I ask of people is that you try to understand why you care. If you care, that's fine, whatever. I mean, I can't tell you you're wrong. I think you should relax. I think it's better for your mental health if you relax. But I'm not going to tell you you're fundamentally wrong for caring about soccer's popularity. But I want to know why you care about soccer's popularity. Is there an end game to that? Is it just because you want to have more people to talk to about it? Is it because you want to see more jerseys on the street because you get some thrill out of it? Is it because you believe that a more popular soccer is better for the U.S. national team, which will lead to a World Cup victory? I mean, that's a long string of events, but I can see the rationale.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I for one, want soccer to be popular because I think it's beautiful. I think it has a beautiful history. I don't need it to be the most popular sport in the world, but I think more people would appreciate it and it would enrich their lives if they understood.
Yeah, but that's not you're not you're not saying that because you have some notion of you're not trying to be magnanimous and like you're not a humanitarian here, are you?
I'm not.
That's your idea, like, oh, more people should like soccer because it's a great sport. That's some kind of selfless notion. No, that's not how people think. That's not how I think. I don't necessarily need people to like soccer to validate me. I'm gonna say that first of all, and I hope that's the truth for a lot of soccer fans out there. That's the other thing I'll say is you don't need the validation, so why look for it? Why put yourself through the mental anguish of it?
There's that. There's the hipsterish element of it too. That I got into this on the ground floor, and when new people come in, I'm going to know more about it than they will, and they're going to think I'm smart, and they're going to think I'm connected, and all that. There's a selfish element to it.
Yeah, Rick, I'm being admonished, and I did try to kind of separate these things, and I guess I didn't do a good enough job for Robert's liking. Agent E Rob on Twitter. He says, slow down, totally mixing apples and oranges on the traffic talk. Player rep, TV rights, and team ownership are different. Now, look, they're all under the heading of traffic sports. So when third-party ownership is out there, and they also have the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, and they also now represent CONCACAF from a marketing standpoint, they all look like they're connected, whether they are within the business or not. And I believe, I may be wrong about this, but I believe that the third-party player ownership has ended or they've pulled back.
The last time I looked into this was right when Enrique Santos took over as general secretary, and as I understood it, they were scaling back their third-party ownership. It might even have been as a result of the Tevez thing, which they weren't involved in, but I think they were just divesting that part of it. They still do actively control players, but I don't think they're recruiting any more of them.
Robert, go ahead. Sorry.
And he is absolutely right. It's different branches of the company. It's different elements. And the announcement that was made today was not TV rights. It was general marketing rights. The ability to advertise CONCACAF and its tournaments.
Yes.
But they still do answer to the same CEO. They still do answer to the same board of directors or however they're structured. And ultimately, it is one entity making these decisions that benefit it. So if they have the TV rights to a tournament, and now they have the marketing rights to the tournament, they effectively control that tournament. They're the ones pulling the strings, not CONCACAF.
Look, again, Robert's right. There are different business segments and different things that Traffic does. And he makes the point that Traffic Brazil and Traffic USA are different things, and that's just true. But again, perception is the rule in a lot of these cases. And right now, perception is that all of this is Traffic. It's all the same thing. They're doing all of these various things, whether it's being part of NASL and launching an ASL because they were key to that, running teams, owning players, controlling marketing rights. All of these things are connected in the minds of soccer fans. And again, maybe that doesn't dictate policy within the company as they go into battle, so to speak, against SUM and MLS or whatever outlook they have. But it does impact how we perceive Traffic and their operations. Rick, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there it goes. There goes Rick. Let's take one more quick break. We'll come back. We'll reset. Jonathan Tannenwald is dropping some knowledge on Twitter, and we're going to talk about that. Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, soccermorning.com. Be right back.
Chacarone, 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 chacarone.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
Back on Soccer Morning, it's Rex Manning Day. Soccer Morning, thanks to Andrew Abernathy for his musical selections. There's one more. I left the best for last, Andrew. If you're worried about it, you're wondering about the order in which you sent those over, I did make a small change. We will play one more song from Andrew to close out the program today. I see a lot of this discussion about traffic has drummed up some people who are talking about MLS versus NASL. I don't want to paint it that way. I'm not in the know enough. And this is clearly about marketing rights to CONCACAF. This is not necessarily about MLS. But we do know that MLS has a marketing arm. It is Soccer United Marketing, SUM. And traffic is essentially, de facto, the marketing arm of the NASL. So, draw your own conclusions as to what this might mean. Okay? Figure it out for yourself. Now, be careful about injecting ideas that aren't there. Be careful about putting information into this dynamic that you don't have. But just keep in mind that traffic and NASL are more or less aligned. And SUM and MLS are certainly aligned. And consider that moving forward. Now, I promised you some knowledge from our friend Jonathan Tannenwald, who I'm not sure if he's listening or not. He's a busy guy. Philly.com. He says, and he's a regular guest on this show to talk about the TV deals and some of the commercial aspects of MLS. Here's his string of tweets, and I hope Jonathan doesn't mind me reading these. A lot of people have asked me over the last few days what's going on with the negotiations for the new MLS TV deal. I have no idea. And I'm not saying I should have an idea when I haven't talked to people lately, but the lack of chatter is kind of odd. That said, over the weekend, a few people who I trust pretty strongly as sources told me they've heard NBC is back at the table. I've been trying to get it confirmed. I haven't yet, but I've heard it from enough people at this point to conclude that something is up. That's a interesting development. That's a massive that's a massive development for MLS. I'll just put it out there. I saw that. I thought I'd pass that along. Eddie is going to admonish me for not talking about Champions League today. We've got 25 minutes left. Eddie, call me up. Let's talk some Real Madrid. Let's talk what they can do to keep Bayern Munich off the board today. Because I'm curious if anybody out there, if you're a rational fan and not in the bag for Real Madrid, I'm not saying Eddie is, but you never know. I'm wondering if anybody is betting against Bayern Munich today. Trevor, are you betting against Bayern? I'm not betting against Bayern Munich. I've got them winning this thing. They're down a goal. They went to the Bernabeu. They couldn't score. Real Madrid played it tight, played it close, played it tight, played defensive, got their goal. They get to go to Munich with a 1-goal advantage. But I expect Bayern Munich to take care of this. Now, will he get some extra time? Perhaps that'll happen. Maybe it'll be 1-0 Bayern Munich going into the latter stages, and we'll have this frenetic push. Maybe, because here's the problem. Based on the fact that they have the 1-goal advantage, how does Real Madrid set up in Munich? They set up defensively again. So we're going to get a carbon copy. Are we not? Auntie, you're on the line. What's up?
Hey. First of all, the worst name for Atlanta team, I'm going to call them Atlanta Winnipeg Jets.
Okay.
Or is that too cruel?
No, I'm not sure where I know what the Winnipeg Jets reference is about, I guess, but I don't know.
Or maybe Atlanta Calgary Flames.
Okay, yeah. We're going to reverse it and just, Atlanta Flames. They named the soccer team after the hockey team that left in this, I don't even know when that was. In the 80s, early 80s when they left? Yeah. Late 70s? Whatever. Are you calling about Champions League, Auntie? Or are you calling about something else?
I'm just calling.
Just calling. All right. Well, give me, because Eddie's calling in as well, and Eddie's a Real Madrid fan. I'm gonna give him a chance to talk. But do you have any thoughts at all that Bayern Munich won't beat Madrid today?
3-0 for Bayern.
Ooh, see, that's rough. Eddie, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Eddie. Auntie says 3-0 to Bayern. Are you afraid that might be the thing that happens, or you have some confidence here?
I'm extremely confident. I have no reason not to be. What did Bayern Munich exactly do in the first leg for me to feel afraid right now? What have they done the last couple of weeks? What's their form been?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Bayern Munich has not shown the propensity, the ability to break down defensive setups at this point. They've had some issues. Now, I'm going to ask you, Eddie, because you would have a better knowledge of this than I would. Is there any reason to expect that Real Madrid won't set up exactly the same way they did in the first leg?
They definitely will not set up in that fashion. They had to, with the last two matches, they've been running this hybrid system. It's a little bit of a 4-4-2, 4-3-3. So basically, they'll drop back in 2 blocks of 4 and they'll defend. But it's not really like Chelsea defending. They would press the opposition. And then you see Isco. Isco was the one that really started it all. So Isco would make, he'd pressure the ball, make the tackle, and then next he's playing an outlet pass. And then there we go. Di Maria pushes up, and now we're looking at a 4-3-3 that just switched off of a 4-4-2.
Fair enough. Yeah,
now, you're not going to be able to run that with Gareth Bale, and you're not going to be able to run that with Cristiano Ronaldo out there. So that's why I think they're going to go back to this 4-3-3 system, and they're going to be more attack-minded. And that's where the away goal comes into play. I think Madrid are going to lose, but they're going to lose 2-1.
Okay.
And 2-2 on aggregate, that gets us to Lisbon.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that if you are comfortable taking the risk of giving up 2 goals but getting 1 yourself, then I suppose that's what. And again, with Bale and Ronaldo on the field, it does change your mindset. It'd be a complete waste, and it would be antithetical to their abilities to ask them to sit back and defend and try to hit on a counter. I mean, they have the ability to press. How much pressing of the ball can you do, though?
With them, I don't know. I kind of see Isco to me was a catalyst, and I don't know what Ancelotti did because that was never his game. Isco was kind of viewed as kind of like a Juan Mata kind of player, that he's really only attack minded and he only plays one side of the ball. But he was a pit bull the last 2 matches, and that's really what helped us be able to adopt this system. Now, whether Di Maria is going to be able to do it, Modric definitely can do some of it. It's really what it was going to come down to is whether or not we're able to get that pressure and then spring the ball up for Bale and for Cristiano. Because to be honest, Bayern Munich center back pairing isn't as intimidating or as formidable as a lot of people give it credit for. They can be beaten one-on-one, especially with the likes of Bale and Cristiano. So we're not going to sit back. We're not going to defend. We don't have to defend a 1-0 lead. We have to get an away goal, and I think that's what we're going to go for. And when we get it, I'll be comfortable.
All right, fair enough. I mean, that's straight from a Real Madrid fan. You obviously have reason to be biased about their prospects, but again, I think there's the perception. And Auntie's got 3-0. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that type of scoreline. I think it's very possible Real Madrid gets at least 1, and I guess then it requires Bayern Munich to get 3 in order to win on aggregate and not have that away goal come into play. Lots of pressure. So can they go for the goal? Can they try to get the opener and put all the pressure on Bayern Munich to score 3?
I think honestly, the longer it goes, 0-0, the better it is for Madrid. So I wouldn't expect them to come out, guns a-blazing the first 15 minutes and try to get into an end-to-end encounter with Bayern Munich, because with the crowd and the atmosphere, and I think that's asking too much. I think the first 15 minutes kind of just weather the storm, and then from there, try to dictate more of the tempo and go into your game plan. So that the first 15 minutes, they got to weather that storm, because it's going to be a storm in the Allianz Arena. And one more thing, Carlo Ancelotti, 7 matches against Bayern Munich, has never lost.
Okay. All right. I question those stats, especially if they go back in time, because this is
the man knows German opposition, and that's where we've always struggled as a club. German opposition.
This is German opposition with a Spanish coach, and again, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just saying it might not matter as much as you.
Even the first leg,
it did, absolutely did, and did it in a style that was warranted, but excruciating to watch sometimes. Appreciate the phone call, Eddie. Best of luck, man.
All right.
There you go.
Thanks, man.
Auntie, you got anything else, man?
I think just every game begins from the 0, and then you might see things happening, like Chelsea's losing at home. It happens. You just can't stop it. But I don't have anything more.
All right, man. Appreciate the phone call. Thanks a lot for the support. Finnish friend Antti, who I think is responsible for the Finland scarf I have on the wall. I think I've confirmed that. Apologies. Lots of things swirling around in my head. All right, let's talk Atlanta. Let's talk about names for Atlanta. We discussed the story from Atlanta, for the marketer suggesting names. They were all terrible. They were all disasters. None of them should be taken seriously. I hope they aren't, by Arthur Blank and his staff, as they look to get the imaging of this team right. What we've got recently, though, what we got yesterday, is a poll that says that the favored name by the fans of Atlanta is Phoenix, Atlanta Phoenix. Now, for those of you who don't know the history of Atlanta or are unaware of the symbolism of the Phoenix to Atlanta, this is a city that was burned to the ground during the Civil War by William Tecumseh Sherman and arose like a phoenix, and therefore Phoenix has some symbolism again to the city of Atlanta. It may even be on the city flag. I don't know that I've looked at the Atlanta city flag, but it may be there. I don't like it. Yes, it is. It's on the flag. I don't like it, and I'm not sure why I don't like it. It's not because there's another city in the country called Phoenix. That's not it. You can be Atlanta. I mean, you can be Atlanta Phoenix and not have it evoke thoughts of Arizona. That's not a thing I'm worried about. It just doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem strong enough. Maybe it is to the people of Atlanta, and that's who it matters to. Not to me. I'm not from Atlanta. I'm not a fan of the team. I'm not buying season tickets because I don't live there. It matters to them. Maybe Atlanta can chime in here. We've got any people in the ATL listening right now. Tell me what you think about the name Phoenix. Because again, I'm advocating Terminus, Atlanta Terminus, whatever. I'm curious whether or not that's even in play. This is a name that to me would be unique. It's a strong brand and it's unique. I mean, I'm not a marketing guy, but I'm going to use the word brand anyway. There's already a Phoenix, at least one soccer club called Phoenix, Wellington Phoenix. They still exist. Do I have that right? Does Wellington Phoenix still exist? I can't keep track of my A-League teams. And of course, they're based in New Zealand, Wellington Phoenix. Yeah, it looks like they're still around. So there you go. There's your other Phoenix. Maybe they can create a partnership, Wellington and Atlanta, and trade players or something. I don't know. Again, we care a lot about these things. Sometimes clubs end up going just with the city name because, hey, let's just let it kind of develop organically, or we don't want to make a mistake. They go with Atlanta FC. That would bore the hell out of everybody, and yet they might be set up to avoid some of the pitfalls that was the original MLS names or some of the other mistakes that have popped up. 250, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, it's Justin from BC here. I just want to touch on something that you talked about earlier, and I just need you to make me feel a bit better about it. As an Everton supporter, this weekend going to the City game, I'm a little bit torn because I do despise Liverpool, as most Evertons do. But I got a bit of a unique situation here in the fact that I'm lucky enough to actually be attending that game.
Right.
And but I also have tickets for the final game for Manchester City against West Ham. So I want to be there for that championship game if City should happen to win. But that's with Everton losing against City. So right. I, like you, cannot cheer for my team to lose, but I sort of am. Am I a bad fan for feeling this way?
Well, look, I mean, I imagine that this is a completely unique experience for you, going to these games. I mean, I don't know that you do this on a regular basis, right? This is not...
Exactly.
Okay, so you have the opportunity to be present, you have an opportunity not only to see your team play, but to see a Premier League title secured by one of the teams you're going to see play. Man, I don't know. I mean, I guess, as rational people, we can sort of excuse anything in this case. It's going to be
that's sort of where I'm at.
It's going to be a once in a lifetime. Well, here's the thing. Again, you can't root for your team to lose. I think you go to that Everton City game and you root for Everton to win, and you let the chips fall where they may. And then, obviously, when you go to the City game, you'll be, if the City does beat Everton, you'll have every opportunity to root for them to win, so you can see the trophy presentation and everything else. Or, I mean, see that celebration on the field. Because at this point, it doesn't look like. I mean, your saving grace is that Everton is unlikely to get anything out of winning. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you want them to win because they're your team, but they're not going to. Arsenal's not going to drop points. I just don't see Arsenal dropping points and not winning another game and not finishing fourth. So you don't have to worry about that part. And then, the Liverpool factor with City, the best team is going to win. And I don't know. I don't know. So such a strange situation for you.
It is very much, but thanks. You made me feel a little bit
No,
better
I
about
didn't. I didn't even help you at all. I confused myself. Absolutely. Thanks for the comment.
Hearing somebody else talk about it, sort of justifies it to me.
Okay. I appreciate the call, man. Best of luck best of luck when figuring it out. Appreciate it. Bye. Yeah, look, a conundrum there. A conundrum for Justin as he attempts to figure out, should I root for my team to beat City because that will help Liverpool, who is my team's arch rival, or should I root for my team to lose so City will win? Because then when I go to the next game and City, anyway. Rico in Atlanta. Phoenix ain't going to happen. Atlanta Sports Radio will laugh it out of town. It's interesting. By the way, there is a team called the Atlanta Phoenix. They are a women's American football team. That's what now, I don't know that would be a problem, an impediment to naming the team in Atlanta the Phoenix. I'm sure somebody with a little bit of money, and Arthur Blank certainly has his fair share, more than his fair share, could go and buy those rights, and it wouldn't be a big deal. They would rename the women's football team. Because if Arthur Blank and the Atlanta organization really wanted the name Phoenix, then they would be able to get it. I do have Jeff on Twitter asking about the word terminus. As far as I know, and my my appreciation of Atlanta history is...
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, hold on one second. Reading up on it just a little bit, terminus was among the names of the original town. Also Thrasherville and eventually Atlanta. But that terminus was one of the original names of the town that eventually became Atlanta. 310, you're on the air, man.
Hey, how's it going, man? I'm sorry, I'm just tuning in right now, so you guys may have discussed it. But Liverpool-Chelsea, thinking about that game, is there something there that the U.S. can take to Brazil and think about how to win a game against a strong Portugal or even a stronger Germany?
That's a lesson the United States already is well aware of and has known for years. And I don't think that in that game in particular has any lessons for the U.S. I mean, defending in numbers, being committed to that approach has been an American hallmark. I mean, think about that game in which they beat Spain in the 2009 Confederations Cup. It played out very similarly. I can't say that word. It played out in much the same way as Chelsea-Liverpool played out.
Sure, but thinking about Klinsmann, obviously the strategy has been turned around, 180, I'd say, and I like that. I prefer that as a fan. But what Chelsea did in terms of marketing runners and, the organization was different than I've seen the U.S. do in the past. And I guess I'm just wondering if there's not, a learning that with a better team than we've had potentially in the past, there's not something we can pick up there. I don't know. But, it's a point. This is where we came from. But
yeah,
I just think
it may not be directly applicable, but I think, anytime you're talking about a team, going up against a team, needing a result, going up against a team that's going to dominate the ball and is more dangerous attacking than what you've got, there is an opportunity to play. I mean, I'm talking in very broad terms, and I know you're talking more specifically in how Chelsea went about what they did, but Liverpool is not going to exactly be the same as Portugal. I mean, they may have some of the same elements, but I think when you're talking about Portugal, your first instinct is to lock down Cristiano Ronaldo any way possible.
Right.
When you're talking about Germany, obviously they have a host of weapons, and how do you negate their midfield? I mean, that would be my first instinct is let's make sure that Germany's midfield doesn't beat us. I don't know that, again, that it's directly applicable, but I get your point.
And then I'll leave you with this: is Omar the guy to be in that back line? But that's another discussion for another time.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, so you guys keep that around. But thanks for taking the call. I appreciate it.
No problem. 347-756-6276 is the phone number. I'm being accused on Twitter right now. I like responding to this. I don't know who Red Sox CLT is. His name is A. Rodriguez. I don't know who he is. I'm not going to claim some nefarious background here. I have no idea. Well, he is throwing some things at me, saying that that the media, and he's talking generally here, to be fair, the media puts the white hat onto SUM, and I assume that, by a process of elimination, the black hat onto Traffic. Again, I'm not saying that. I'm not claiming some is better for American soccer than Traffic is. I don't have enough evidence to believe one or the other. I do know that MLS is the top division in this country, and that SUM has helped make MLS better than it probably should be at this point. And I do know that Traffic, through other parts of their business, has been involved in some things. Again, it's not necessarily that I'm saying Traffic USA, the marketing company, is exactly the same as Traffic, the third-party ownership company, because, again, I don't know. But they still share a name. And in perception, in the way that American soccer fans look at the situation, if you see the word Traffic, do you think, well, that company, the marketing side, is significantly different from the side that owned the rights to Gale Basamonde? No, not at all. People go, that's Traffic. This is what they do. They own the strikers. They propped up some NASL teams. They helped start the NASL. They also owned the rights to Gale Basamonde and some other players. And they did this and they did that. And look, they got the marketing rights for CONCACAF. In the head, it's all connected. Whether it's actually connected matters. Again, matters in terms of parsing out whether or not they're the black hat or the white hat. And I'm not even going to do that. Both hats are gray, damn it. If they go at each other, it almost doesn't matter who's good and who's bad because those divisions are impossible and wrong. It's not that clear. It's not necessarily that these two companies are either altruistic about American soccer or not. They're in business for themselves. They're in business to grow their business. Now, the side effect of that may be to help American soccer or it may be to hurt American soccer. I don't think that's in their business plan. We're Traffic USA. And as a marketing company working within the world of soccer, we intend to kill MLS. No, of course not. In fact, if it benefited Traffic to work in partnership with MLS, somehow they would do it. They'd absolutely do it. So again, we don't know exactly what this means. And I'm not claiming that it's bad for American soccer. I'm just worried about battles. Because at least the one thing I do know is that battles between competing organizations has never worked out for American soccer. Never, not once, never. This isn't NFL, AFL. This isn't NBA, ABA. Or it might be. Maybe it will be. Maybe they'll buck the trend. But soccer doesn't have that history. Soccer has this history of, here's a league, they're doing pretty well. Another league starts up because these couple of owners are upset or don't want to follow by the same rules or play by the same rules, and then they go up against each other and they cannibalize the player pool and they cannibalize the fan base, and boom, they're gone. Everybody's gone. Everybody's out of business. And there's no soccer. And that's the worst. That's the worst possible end to all of this, that there's no soccer here. All right, back to more fun topics. Sam on Twitter, how about Atlanta Athletic or AC Atlanta? Those are fine. Those are not exciting to me, but those are fine. Rico back in. He says he doesn't think Terminus would work either because there isn't a strong association with Atlanta, especially in recent times, which is fair. Not everybody wants to go back to 165-year-old history and trade on that for the name of a club. I get it. Now, I'm a history guy. It's cool to me. But it may not resonate with the fan base that you're trying to curry. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. So who knows what direction they'll go in? Maybe they'll be the Silverbacks. Maybe Blank will buy that team, and they'll be the Silverbacks, the Atlanta Silverbacks in MLS. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really get the Silverbacks thing, but I mean, I do. I know where it comes from. Don't tell me where it comes from. I've had that explanation given to me. I just mean I don't know that it works. It's Atlanta's soccer team, though. For now, until 2017, when the Atlanta team launches, it is Atlanta's soccer team. A couple of things. We got a couple of minutes left here. I want to dig further into the reaction to the banana incident with Dani Alves. This meme fest that's happened on Twitter. Everybody taking pictures of themselves eating bananas, whether it's players across the globe. MLS players, European players, England, wherever. Luis Suarez takes a picture and that creates a response. And obviously, Luis Suarez, because of his history, it's a complicated response. People want to throw the word hypocrite at him. Okay. I want to dig deeper into this. I want to get some perspective on this because not everybody is thrilled with the notion of using this meme to counter this racist incident. Now, the Villarreal fan who threw the the banana in question has been banned from the stadium, banned for life, banned. But as I said, as I said yesterday when we were discussing this briefly, that doesn't really impact anything to do with the societal problem that leads to somebody in Spain saying, hey, it's okay for me to throw a banana, or I should be doing this, or whatever. Makes it acceptable on some level for them to be racist. That's the issue. So I want to get some perspective on this. I'm not going to give you any more of my opinions because I may have spoken a little bit too soon yesterday. I do think that what Dani Alves did is an interesting way to handle it, and I applaud him for minimizing the impact on him. But there's certainly a notion that players should be taking more responsibility upon themselves to say enough is enough, and to be more Kevin Prince Boateng than Dani Alves. Also, last couple minutes, I wanted to mention NYCFC continues their hunt for a stadium. It looks like it's going to take a while. We know they're going to play in Yankee Stadium for a couple of years. And the Bronx president did an interview yesterday that I read briefly. Addressed it in a couple of questions, the idea of NYCFC getting a stadium directly adjacent to Yankee Stadium, a site that has been identified for some time now. He wasn't exactly sold. This is not new necessarily, but I do think that the Bronx president speaking about this, and I think he's the only president in the city who has straddled the Bloomberg and de Blasio mayoral reigns. This is the guy, if I'm not mistaken, this is the guy who wants community use for whatever stadium gets built in the Bronx. That's weird. I don't think that's going to happen. That's going a little bit too far. But keep an eye on what's happening up there in the Bronx because it's going to dictate whether or not NYCFC can get out of Yankee Stadium in the near future, or if we're going to be dealing with this for a long time. All right, we're 83% to our goal. We have today, we have tomorrow. Let's do this. Soccermorning.com. I know we can get through it. We can get past the goal, or to the goal. That's all we need. To the goal. We'll be golden. Soccer Morning will continue. Thank you for your listenership. Thank you to Andrew Mangan for joining us today. Thanks to Andrew Abernathy for bringing his music, his unique musical selections to the program today. I enjoyed all of them, I think. I especially enjoyed this one. We'll close out with this. This is Latan. I love this song. All right, guys. We'll talk to you. Oop, that's the wrong button. Let's try this one more time. There it is. There it is. There's Latan. Andrew Abernathy with the music selection today. Soccermorning.com, NASN.TV. I'm Jason Davis. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Top shot that was started in the street. Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Over 6 different teams in Champions League. Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Self-made millionaire in the top league.